Good afternoon, everyone. To those in the room and to those on the phone, thanks for joining us today. Much appreciated. And before I get started with my remarks, of course I should introduce myself. I'm Lana Payne, National President of Unifor. I also want to introduce the folks who are with me today at the head table. Shane Wark, Assistant to the National Officers, who oversees auto sector collective bargaining. John Dagnello, Chair of the Ford Master Bargaining Committee. Jason Gale, Chair of the General Motors Master Bargaining Committee, and in place of James Stewart, who is Chair of our Stellantis Master Bargaining Committee, and unfortunately dealing with some personal matters this week, we have Vito Beato, who is President of Local 1285 at Stellantis and member of the Master Bargaining Committee. On behalf of the Master Bargaining Committees, I want to wish James the best and a speedy recovery and hope that he is back with us very, very soon into the fold and doing the work that we have ahead. Today, as you all know, our union officially opened contract talks with the Detroit Three. They took place at a series of meetings held consecutively throughout today. We first met with Ford Motor Company, then Stellantis, and then General Motors. I delivered a set of bargaining proposals generated by more than 18,000 Unifor members. They work in assembly plants and powertrain facilities, our casting plant, parts distribution centers, office units, fire and security, research and development, and others. I made it very clear to the companies today that our members' expectations are very high. Indeed, all workers' expectations throughout Canada are very high. And for good reason. Profits are up, and so is the cost of living. Workers have shown time and time again that they are prepared to fight and to strike, if necessary, to have their demands met. This is the moment we are in, and no one should underestimate it. The Great Recession in 2008 and 2009 and near collapse of the auto industry resulted in significant changes to our collective agreement and the benefits we fought for over many decades. As you all know, for auto workers, the past 3 years have been a very challenging period. The aftershock of the pandemic is still being felt, with parts shortages, supply bottlenecks resulting in significant downtime at some of our facilities, making life more precarious for many of our members. This is the lived experience of many auto workers today. And it's happening against the backdrop of a stunning and staggering financial performance of the Detroit Three, with major profits reported in every quarter, most of which have been generated in North America. Today, I restated our union's 4 core priorities in bargaining. Priorities that must be addressed for any settlement to be accepted. Pensions, wages, transition supports, and investment. I made it clear of the need for improvements to pensions and retirement security for our members. Auto worker pension benefits have deteriorated over time for our members, active and retired, including new hires. I also made it clear that we will be demanding substantial wage improvements. Improvements that will reflect the affordability crisis as well as the extraordinary profits that the companies are making. I made special mention of the wages for our skilled trades members to resolve what has become a chronic recruitment and retention challenge in our plants. I also spent some time addressing this once-in-a-century transition to electric vehicles. There is excitement among our members to build the auto industry of the future. But also, there is uncertainty and some anxiety. Our members' jobs must be protected during retooling periods and as production levels ramp up to meet demand. We will be bargaining to strengthen and expand our income security programs, as well as work ownership language to help our members through this transition. We are insisting, let me be clear, we are insisting that every EV and EV-related job is a good union job, with the same rights and employment terms as auto workers enjoy today. I also recognized the generational investments slated for our facilities. This is the first time in a very long time that our union enters bargaining without storm clouds hanging over our plants, threats of closures. We will be looking for ways to expand the investment footprint in Canada, as well as to clarify details on product programs and timelines coming into our plants. Our members deserve to know this. Of course, these aren't our only proposals. I presented a very extensive list. I'm sure the companies were very happy to get it. And out of respect, though, for the integrity of the bargaining process, those details will remain with the Master Bargaining Committee. However, what I can confirm with you is we are seeking a 3-year agreement. We are seeking improvements to health benefits, health and safety protections, as well as mental health supports. We are seeking to remove contractual disparities between workers hired before 2012, bargaining compared to workers hired after 2012, including further reducing the time it takes to reach the top wage rate, which is currently 8 years. There are, of course, many other specific demands. My message to the companies today was very clear. We have an opportunity right now to set the blueprint for what good jobs must look like in a net zero economy. It's up to us. We have a once-in-a-lifetime moment to set that course. Our members have done nothing but deliver for these companies. They've lived up to their end of the bargain. They continue to live up to their end of the bargain. They're the very best at what they do, and that's not an exaggeration. It's an indisputable fact. Building things right means building them in Canada. Getting our members the best deal possible, a deal they deserve, is our primary objective. In terms of what comes next, and for those who don't know, Unifor will be holding its Canada Council meetings in Halifax next week. At that time, we will also be hosting our National Collective Bargaining Summit and celebrating Unifor's 10th anniversary. Over this period, I expect the companies to review and process the proposals we gave them today. On August 21st, we return to Toronto and will begin meetings shortly thereafter. We expect intensive negotiations in the weeks following across all our subcommittee tables. On August 26th and 27th, we will be holding customary strike votes in the hopes that our members will give us the mandate we need to take strike action if necessary and if a deal can't be reached. The collective agreements, as you all know, likely by now, expire on September 18th at 11:59 p.m. Now, I've done a lot of media over the past couple of months, and the question I get most frequently is, who will we select as the target company? That sets the pattern for the others. As you know, this is a strategic decision that our union makes. And I can tell you for certain that at this time, that at this point, no final decision has been made. But what I can tell you, because you will likely ask, is that we are, at this moment in time, seriously considering setting the pattern with Ford Motor Company. There are reasons for this. For one, there is a continuity with Ford that we see as advantageous. In 2020, Ford was the first to step up with commitments to the new EV investments, and we are now on the cusp of seeing those investments come to fruition at Oakville. I see this as a bit of unfinished business for our union. When it comes to the EV transition, we have the clearest picture of what the Ford Oakville retool will look like, and we think that provides us with a useful baseline on which to negotiate. Also, Ford has been the most forthcoming with us on their plans. They have also been the most transparent during our quarterly review business meetings. They've also demonstrated, quite frankly, a willingness to dialogue, and in fact, they have publicly signaled their desire to draft a blueprint for the future transition through bargaining with Unifor. Our union has had a good historical working relationship with Ford Motor Company. We've demonstrated an ability to tackle workplace issues creatively. Our 2020 Racial Justice Advocate Program was perhaps the most recent example of this. I'm stating this only to let you know, and of course our members know, where my head is at right now. But of course, there is still plenty of time, and our thought process may shift over that period. A final decision will likely come over the course of the next month, and we will be sure to keep our members and the media informed. With that, thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions with this incredible team over here. I'm going to shift to sit with them.
For those on the phone, please press star one if you have questions. And your first question on the phone is from Eric Atkins at the Globe and Mail.
Oh, I thought, whoops.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Once all these plants are actually making EVs, what do you think employment levels will look like, the number of jobs that are there? Given, I've heard in some quarters that an electric vehicle has fewer moving parts and therefore requires fewer people to make them.
Is this working? Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks. Got your question.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
So there's no doubt that there is a possibility that we may see some differences in employment. This is why we have developed a strategy as a union on how we manage this transition. But I wouldn't be surprised, given what we're seeing right now, that we actually see in some places more employment as a result of these investments. Secondly, where we likely will see some challenges, obviously, are on the auto parts side. And as you know, we've done an audit of our auto parts facilities, and there is a possibility of having up to 1/3 of those workplaces or those workers being impacted by the transition, which is why it's incredibly important to make sure we're managing this transition well, so anybody who may be displaced from a job is able to get a job in the new EV future, whether it's in a battery plant or somewhere else in the supply chain. And that will certainly be part of our discussions during negotiations.
Thank you. As a follow-up, what specifically have you seen with Ford at Oakville regarding the number of jobs? Are they offering fewer jobs, more jobs as they transition?
The same.
The same. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next phone question is from Dale Molnar at CBC Windsor.
Hi, it's Dale here from CBC Windsor. Hi, Alana. Just wondering, the UAW in the States is, of course, asking for a lot of improvements. If they get what they want, does that mean less for the Canadian side here?
Thanks for that question, Dale. We have been very clear from the beginning that Unifor charts its own course in bargaining. We have been doing this for a very long time right now. We have very clear demands that were presented to the company today, and we expect that our job is very clear. We have to get a good collective agreement that our members will accept and support and be proud of. The other thing I will say is it's very clear that these companies are investing in Canada right now. They see Canada as a place to put investment dollars, and we expect to see more investment, thus securing not just the jobs we have, but more jobs down the road.
And just a follow-up, I was talking to a analyst today who's talking about, the union is saying these companies are reaping record profits at the moment, but they still do have all this R&D to invest in. They have the EV plants, batteries. Would you say that they're not quite as flush with cash as you might be saying?
I think you need to read their quarterly statements. They're pretty flush with cash right now, but of course we understand that the transition is costly. This is why governments south of the border and north of the border, obviously the Canadian government has been very supportive of the industry, coming from the federal budget just this year. We've seen a number of new programs. We've seen governments willing to do one-off agreements, whether it's to attract battery plants to Canada. Yes, of course, the transition is going to cost, but I would argue with you that this transition is only successful with our members. And we expect, and I'm pretty sure governments expect, that there are good jobs on the end of those investments.
Just finally, are you expecting tough negotiations with Stellantis, considering the hard line they took with the Canadian government over the battery plant in Windsor?
I expect tough negotiations with all three.
Thank you.
Any
At this time, there are no other phone questions.
Great, thank you. What about those in the room? Yes, go ahead.
Hi there, Ian Bickers of the Canadian Press.
And I apologize, I was supposed to go to you guys first because you did come and join us, so go ahead.
Quite all right. We've seen with other labor negotiations, work expectations are quite high between the port strikes and the metro. I was wondering your sense of how realistic worker expectations are going into this, and whether you think you'll be able to meet them in terms of just the amount of wage and pension improvements that are expected from workers.
I mean, I think it's clear the moment we're living in right now. I've referenced it many times. We have, high inflation. People are still dealing with a high cost of living, I would say, even though inflation is coming down. Grocery prices certainly aren't. Gas prices certainly aren't. And housing certainly isn't, thanks to the Bank of Canada. So these are the realities that our members are facing. And they need to be able to support themselves and their families and their communities. This is the moment we're in right now, and workers are pretty clear about their expectations, and our job as a union is to carry those expectations into bargaining and make sure that we're doing the very best that we can to get an agreement that they can support.
And then the fourth priority is in the investment side, but as you said, there's already been tons of commitments on the investment side. Can you clarify a bit more what you're looking for on that front?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there are more investments that can be made around the EV transition. We're looking at, we have a wonderful engine plant here in Windsor, and we'd love to see, a map for what else we can add to that facility going forward. St. Catharines, which is an engine facility now, is going to be a hybrid doing electric motors as well. But there are lots of opportunities along the supply chain for these three companies to be investing in Canada. And I think what you're seeing across the industry and across the world is more of a focus on trying to localize supply chains. So we believe that there are going to be more investments and significant investments in Canada, and we look forward to them, and we want to talk to the companies about that in terms of how they can expand their footprint. We told all three of them today that we expect their footprint to expand in Canada.
Hi, Bianca
Hi,
Barty.
Bianca.
Hi. Bianca Barty from the Financial Post. I just wanted to ask, how are you collaborating with the United Auto Workers Association, and how will you collaborate going forward into negotiations?
Great, thanks. Great question. Obviously, we have a good relationship with the UAW. We just hosted a summit in Windsor where we brought together our team here with their team just to talk about the state of the industry, what our expectations are on each side going into bargaining. And our plan is, and we've both made a commitment to this, to obviously keep good communications going forward. And, it's important. We want the best for our members. They want the best for their members. We want the best for ours. And it just happens in this year we're bargaining at the same time, so that means that communication's got to be more acute, and the dialogue will continue.
How will what happens in the United States influence your bargaining here in Canada?
For us, we have our own job to do. I would say to you, we have different collective agreements. We have different things that we want to achieve. Sure, some of the priorities may be the same around improving income or retirement security and wages and those things, but we're all having our own kind of list of priorities here. And we wish them well. We want them to do well by their members, the same way that I'm sure they wish us well here in Canada. The key right now is to make sure that we're doing the job that we need to do, and charting the course that we know that our members are expecting of us. And this was a union that was born out of charting its own course and was created for that very reason. So we're going to stick with that and stick with what it is that we've got to do representing Canadian auto workers. Thank you.
Hi, Catherine McIntyre from The Logic here. I'm wondering if you can just elaborate a little bit more on what you would like to see in terms of protections for workers during the transition to EV, and whether you expect there to be any layoffs during that period, and just how you want to mitigate against that.
For sure. Well, we do expect a period of downtime for our members. There's no doubt about it. We will have to confirm in this round of bargaining what those retooling periods would look like and how long they're going to be, whether it's in Oakville or Windsor or Brampton or any of our facilities. Generally, right now, when we have any kind of regular economic layoff, and we've had a lot of it because of the pandemic, as you know, we've had a lot of down weeks in a number of our facilities. We have provisions in our collective agreement that basically tops up employment insurance, but we'll be arguing, of course, that this is a special transition, and that means we need to make sure that everybody is protected during those down periods. And what that looks like coming out, we'll leave it to the bargaining table, but I can tell you that we're looking at improved income security measures during those down times.
Just more broadly, in terms of wage increases, you want to see any more specifics you can share on that?
Nope. We're leaving that for the bargaining table.
Thanks.
I think I did say substantial, though, or significant.
David Kennedy with Automotive
Hi,
News.
David. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Just a quick question on, again, the UAW. Obviously, yesterday we saw Sean Fain throw out a concessionary agreement from Stellantis. Should we expect anything similar from Unifor? Are you going to be taking that approach in these talks?
I'll be taking the approach that I take, and we haven't received anything from Stellantis yet, so stay tuned and we'll see what that looks like.
Sounds good. And then just a question on pensions. Obviously, you've mentioned your hope of reopening the pension question over the course of these talks. Are you going to be pushing to get everybody back on defined benefit?
We have a number of priorities around pensions. One is how we make an improvement around the DB plan. One is to make sure that our members who are not in the DB plan, that they have a better retirement security option. And we made, and obviously we have retirees out there too. So all of those things we made clear to the company today. And we'll see what that looks like at the end.
And just one final question here. UAW obviously came out and said essentially that they want a 40% wage increase for members down in the U.S. Is Unifor going to be equally ambitious?
We're doing our own bargaining, David.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, that's great. Thank you, everybody. Let's get to it.
Johnny? No, we'll be listening. Okay.